What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Halloween, and today we are going to be ranking a bunch of horror icons. So obviously, I love horror films. I'm a big fan of them, and some of the characters, the killers from these movies are obviously some of the most important parts of them. And I thought it'd be fun to just go through and rank a bunch of them. I have 42 horror icons here from very popular horror movies. Of course, I have not seen every single horror movie ever, so there are a lot missing, like Annabelle, for example. I've never seen Annabelle, so I have no idea what that character is actually like. But I think I have most of the, major ones here. There's a couple of more like minor ones a lot of you probably haven't even heard of before, but I wanted to include because I wanted to talk about them. And we are ranking them based on how much I like them, how interesting they are as characters, not based on how popular they are. So you might see some popular characters rated kind of low, but that's just because I don't find them that interesting. For these characters, we only included different versions of these characters for some specific circumstances. For example, for Chucky, I did include the Child's Play 2019 remake version as a different character because they're very different, so it just made sense to include them separately. And I also did that for Pennywise. I included the Tim Curry version separate from the Skarsgård version from the newer It movies. And unfortunately, I did not do that for Ghostface or Jigsaw. I know obviously Ghostface and Jigsaw, there's been many different versions of them. So although I would get a more accurate ranking if I did include every single version of Ghostface separately and every single version of Jigsaw separately, but first of all, I didn't want to spoil those movies for people who haven't seen them yet. And I also just didn't really want to have like 20% of this list just be the different ghost faces and the different Jigsaw variants. It would be a bit much. I wanted to kind of just include them as their own thing. So let's get to this. More or less, I put these in chronological order of when the movies released, when they first were introduced as characters, but I'm not 100% accurate with this. I kind of just threw it together on my own, just based off knowledge I have. So I might have gotten wrong for some of them. But the first one here we have is Norman Bates from the original Psycho. Now, I've only seen the original Psycho and Psycho 2, so I've seen that character in those two films. And I've also seen the Psycho remake from the 90s. Now, I'm not really basing it off of the version from the 90s because that's a very different version. No, it's the same version. It's just a very different like acting performance with the character. But I really do think this version is perfect. With, of course, Anthony Perkins.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Honestly, if I only have seen the first Psycho, I probably wouldn't put him that high, but I really liked his character in Psycho 2. I actually thought he was incredible, and there was actually so much depth to his character. I'm going to put him in A. That might surprise some people, but I really think he was fantastic. The thing is with him is the second one just goes so much more in detail with who he is as a character that it just automatically makes them that much more interesting. Also, if you're wondering what these tiers really mean, I mean, S is like the perfect icons, my favorites. A is like, okay, they're really great, but they're not my favorites. B is they're just good, C is average, and D is they're starting to get into the bad territory of just not being interesting whatsoever for me. Next up, we have Regan from The Exorcist. Now, this one is interesting because obviously Regan herself is not a villain, but she does have, of course, she's possessed. And I've only seen the first 3 Exorcist films. The first one I did react to on this channel. A lot of these movies here I actually have reacted to on this channel. And for Regan, I felt like I really liked what they did with her in the first film. I didn't really care for the second one, though. They did some really weird stuff there. And I don't even remember. Was she in the third one? I don't think she was. And so I don't think I'm going to put her that high, though. I'm honestly, like, hot take, I did not think the Exorcist films are that good. I'm usually not a fan of exorcism movies. Like, I've liked some of them, but a lot of them I also just find them to be kind of repetitive. But of course, the original Exorcist, I mean, it's very creative, it's very innovative, and of course, at the time of its release, it was, one of the scariest horror movies for a lot of people. But Regan herself, I don't really think she was that interesting. So, because of course, it's just a demon possessing her. So, it's gonna sound crazy, but I'm putting her in C. I know, it's crazy, but it's my list, so you'll have to deal with that. Next up, we have Billy from Black Christmas, which I did react to that on this channel. Now, there are a couple different Black Christmas remakes, and those are shit. Well, okay, the 2006 one's okay. I actually think that's okay, but the 2019 one's shit. Doesn't even have Billy in it, technically. So, whatever. That one, I didn't even include any icons from that in this list anyways, but Billy from the original especially, I think is pretty interesting. He doesn't really have much to him, but just the idea of this person who's been stalking them, and the whole movie, you're kind of just like guessing, like, oh, wait, what's going on here? You have no idea. And I want to say he's like that interesting because we don't really learn much about him other than just the creepy aspect of the character. So I'm just gonna put him in B. I like the movie a lot, I do. Black Christmas is a great film, but I just think the character itself, I don't think I could put him much higher than B. So we're just gonna leave him there for now. That is okay. Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, there's been many different Leatherfaces, of course. We've had many different movies with Leatherface, many different actors who portrayed Leatherface, and he's kind of the same in most of them. Some of them, not so much. I mean, if you look at like part 4, it's very bonkers and crazy, but in general, he does feel very similar in most of them. And I do really like this horror icon. I don't think he's nearly as good as some other horror icons, so I don't know if I should put him in A or B. I think it's definitely going to be between those two. I'm probably just going to put him in I'm going to say A. And I think they can definitely do a lot more with this character, and I want to see more Leatherface films that are actually good, because I've only felt like a few of them are that great, especially the remake. I loved the 2003 remake, and even the 2006 like prequel remake thing. The original, of course, is solid as well, but most of the other ones, it's like hit or miss all around, so just going to leave them in A. Next up, we have Carrie, which I don't really ever see anybody talking about the Carrie movies, which always surprises me because I think they're really cool. It's actually one of the only novels I've ever read in my entire life. I've not read a lot of books, but Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, it's one of the only ones I actually read. But I actually do like the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. A lot of people hate that film, but I thought the remake was fine. But I have just any version of Carrie here, and it's not like the best story ever, but I think it's just a very simple story of this, character who's bullied constantly and then just has her breaking point during the prom when they drop pig's blood on her. I'm gonna put her in B. I'm not gonna put her that high just because I don't think any of the movies have perfected the story yet. I think they can definitely. I kind of want to see them try to perfect the story in the future, but it's hard to beat what the novel was. So I really enjoyed it though. I really enjoyed this character. Putting her in B. Michael Myers. Now, this might shock some people. I'm not putting him in S tier. Just right off the bat, I'm going to say that I am not putting this man in S tier. The thing is with Michael, I feel like there's so many Michael Myers films, so many Halloween films, and I keep feeling like they're just doing weird things with the character because they don't really go too in depth with who he is as a character other than in like the Rob Zombie movies, I guess. But for the most part, he's just this evil, right? That's his whole idea. He's just evil. That's all he is. And the first few movies, yeah, he had some supernatural aspects to him, but it was never like too much. And then you get to later ones, especially like Halloween Kills, and it's just full on just like supernatural Michael Myers. And I kind of would wish they would either just go full out with that or just not do that at all. But I mean, the character itself, I just don't think you can do much more with him. And I don't really find him that interesting beyond just the films being kind of entertaining, like a lot of the films that he's in. But the character Michael Myers himself, yes, he's iconic, but I'm only going to put him in A. He's not going in S. I don't think he ever will, to be honest, unless they really surprise me with a future Michael Myers film. But for now, I'm just going to put him in A. Now we have Jason from Friday the 13th, and oof, this is a toughie. So the Jason films versus the Michael Myers films, I'm not sure which one I prefer. I think I put Halloween above Friday the 13th on my franchise ranking, like that I did 2 years ago. But honestly, now, like, I'm not even sure anymore. Like, they're kind of like closer than I originally thought they were. But I still wouldn't say that I prefer the Halloween films, or I still wouldn't say that I prefer the Friday the 13th films over the Halloween films. But there is a potential that I prefer Jason over Michael. Like, I genuinely think I might prefer him. But is he going to be S tier, though? That's not going to happen. I think his story's more interesting. I do, but I just don't think the movies have been able to portray that good enough just yet for me to put him higher. I'm going to put him in A for now. And, I'll rank them within the tiers. Why not? If we're going to rank them within the tiers, I'm putting them here. A is a good spot for them, I think. And we got Jack from The Shining. Now, I put him in as a horror icon. I didn't see many people include him in their lists when I've seen other people do horror icon rankings. But I'll include him. I like The Shining a lot. I don't think it's as good as a lot of people say, but I enjoy it. I'm going to put him in B. I know that might be a bit low for some people, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? He's great. He's interesting, but I think the movie is really good for a lot of other things rather than just the character. I think the performance is really what holds that character up, though. I mean, obviously, Jack Nicholson is fantastic in that role.
Here's Johnny.
And so yeah, he deserves to be there. I haven't seen the sequel to The Shining yet, Doctor Sleep. I haven't seen that yet. I don't I don't know what the sequel's like, but just letting you know. Then we have this character. I forget his name. It was like something Chaplin. I don't know. This is the character from Silent Night, Deadly Night. Yeah, I don't even know why I included him, to be honest. I think I just wanted an extra character to throw on for D tier, and I knew this character would be D tier, so I was like, sure, we'll throw in this character. Why not? I didn't like that movie. I think it's one of the worst horror films I've ever seen. I know there's like a lot of them. I've only seen the first one, but it was just a guy who just got pissed off, dressed up as Santa, started killing people. I didn't give a shit, man. I didn't give a shit. Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, S tier, without a doubt. This might be, my best one, honestly. It's either going to be this or someone else. You guys probably know who the two are going to be, the other one. But it's going to be one of those two as the number one. Freddy is amazing. I love this character. Are all the movies fantastic? No, a couple of them are actually really bad. But I think the character of Freddy probably has the most interesting backstory to him. I did not include the remake as a separate version. It's not that different. The performance is very different, but the character itself is rather similar. So I just included it all as one. Obviously, Robert Englund is amazing in the role, and I even think Jackie Earle Haley is pretty good in the role as well in that remake. A lot of people don't say that, but I think he is pretty good in that remake. And it's just, there's just so much you could do with this character. The fact that he goes into your dreams and kills you within your dreams is just such a unique idea. And it's such an awesome concept that you can do so much with. And it's such a shame that A Nightmare on Elm Street, compared to like the, Friday the 13th and Halloween franchises, has not gotten nearly as many movies. They just haven't. I mean, I guess you can say they're kind of close, but they need more. They need more Nightmare on Elm Street films. We need to see a whole nother trilogy or something, because I would love to see someone's take on this character in today's world, because we haven't seen it since 2010. And besides 2010, it was like 2003 with Freddy vs. Jason. So there's so much more you can do with this character. There's so much more you can expand on. And I think he's just fantastic. I'm genuinely always interested in his story. I'm genuinely interested in all the creativity behind it. Even the Freddy films that I don't like that much, there's still a lot of creative aspects to the character there. He has a bit of a comedic side to him, but it's not too much. I think it just works perfectly, and I would love to see more of that. It doesn't have to be Robert Englund. It really doesn't. You could do new actors for it. I just want to see more of that. Now we got Pinhead. Now, I've only seen Hellraiser from 1987, and I've also seen the newer one, which did not have this version of Pinhead. We're going to actually do that as a separate character later on. But this one, I liked Pinhead. I thought he was cool. He was interesting. He was unique, but I can't put him that high, so I'm just going to put him in, I'm going to say B tier, top of B. That sounds good to me. He's cool. He's awesome. But maybe I have to watch the other Hellraiser films to kind of get a better idea of who he's like. Because he wasn't in that much of the first film. He was in towards the end of it. It was really cool. He was really interesting. But the movie itself is really great for other aspects rather than just the Pinhead characters. So that's why I put that there. Next up, we have Chucky from the Child's Play franchise. And this is definitely one of the most well-developed characters here. Because, I mean, there's been so many. I mean, we've had, 8 Chucky films? Or I guess 7. With this one, and of course we had the remake, and then we have now 3 seasons worth of television with this character, and I've seen all of it. I love all of it. Of course, he's going in S tier. Now, the question is he higher than Freddy Krueger? That's the question, and I really don't know, because it's I prefer. I don't know, man. It's so hard. These are like the same thing with the franchises. I ranked these franchises against each other, and I said in the video, like, I don't really know which one I prefer. They're so close to each other, and I think the characters are just as interesting. I think Chucky obviously goes in more of a comedic route a lot of the time. There's only been a couple Chucky films that really took itself seriously. Most of the time, it's very goofy, but I still really love the character throughout them. I love him in a sense of being interested in their character. Obviously, he's an awful human being, but that's besides the point. But I mean, you go from, Child's Play 2, you look at even Bride of Chucky, Curse of Chucky. There's been so many great portrayals of the character. I don't think they've necessarily done anything that interesting with him in the TV series just yet, which kind of, I really wish they would. I think the most interesting stuff in the TV series has actually been about the other characters. I don't really know if Chucky's just been there as, he has funny lines. He's fun watching him kill people, but I don't think they've actually done much with his character yet, and I would love to see more of that. So I'm honestly going to put him below Freddy, but I don't know. They're so close. Just know that it's not really a big deal where I put these. You can really flip them, and it wouldn't make much of a difference.
I'm fucking infamous. I'm one of the most notorious slashers in history, and I don't want to give that up. I am Chucky, the killer dog, and I dig it!
Next up, I included the Silence of the Lambs characters because, look, a lot of people don't consider that a horror movie, but I do. I do, 100%. It's one of my favorite horror films ever. It's in my top 3, actually. And we have, of course, Hannibal Lecter and Buffalo Bill. Now, I think Hannibal Lecter, he's not really the villain of the movie. Obviously, he's just there as another character. I really wanted to watch the Hannibal series as well as some of the other. I think is there like a Hannibal movie as well? I think there's other movies within the universe. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm not sure if they're played by Anthony Hopkins either. But I feel like I have to put him in S. I have to. He just, it would be like a disservice to not put this man in S. His performance in that movie is just beyond amazing, and the character is beyond interesting. The dialogue is just fucking so good, so good. He's definitely going there. Buffalo Bill, although he's obviously the main focus of the movie in terms of being the villain, but I don't know, I'm gonna put him in S. I'll probably put him in A though, because I do find him to be interesting, but not on the same level as Hannibal Lecter. So I'm gonna put him right here, right below Norman Bates. That looks good. But next up we have Pennywise from the original It series. It was a movie, but it was like a mini series, I think, turned into a movie or something like that. But of course, I watched this probably a couple years ago. I liked the movie, not as much as the remake. I liked it though. And it's probably the creepiest looking villain or horror icon here, or at least one of the creepiest looking ones. But I can't say he's that great in this. I'm going to put him in B, probably like right here. We'll talk about the other Pennywise later. I might have other things to say, but for now, I think that looks good there. Next up, we have Tony Todd as Candyman. And I love Tony Todd as an actor. He's fantastic. But Candyman is really cool. So I don't know where to put him though, because I feel like there's only been one great Candyman movie, and do I want to put him in B or A? I'm probably gonna put him in B, maybe below Pinhead. I didn't include the Candyman version, the Candyman in the newer one. I don't know, didn't really feel like it was different enough to really do that, but I really only loved the first Candyman film, the original, and I think he's very iconic in that, very great in that. But I don't know, putting him above B just doesn't seem right to me. This might also be a strange character to put here. John Doe from Seven. A lot of people don't consider Seven a horror movie. I don't give a shit. I'm including him. The movie's horrific. There's horrific in like a scary sense, not horrific in a bad way. I made that sound like I was calling the movie bad. It's obviously one of the best movies ever. But I think this character is phenomenal, and I had to put him here. I had to include him, or else I feel like I would be doing that franchise, or not that franchise, that movie a disservice. And I consider it a horror movie, so therefore I consider this a horror icon. Deal with it. If you don't, I don't give a shit. I'm including him anyways. So next up, we have Ghostface. Like I said, I'm not including every single different version of Ghostface just because that would be like, what, like 10 plus people at that point, and it just wouldn't be worth it for me. I think including it as one version would make a lot more sense, and also wouldn't just, completely fill up this list with being mostly Ghostface versions. And I also don't want to be spoiling the movies for people if they haven't seen them yet. So Ghostface, I love the concept of it. There's been some Ghostfaces that have been really awesome. There's some that also haven't been that great. But for the most part, I think the overall concept of it is so interesting. The fact that someone else takes the mantle every movie, and you have really unique motivations for them. Sometimes not so much, but I really love when they have just a really unique motivation to them. Sometimes it's a simple motivation too, but it's effective. It's an effective motivation. I think Scream 1, Scream 4, and even Scream 2 probably have some of the best killer reveals in the franchise in terms of the motivations and how much they make sense, or how, unique or compelling they can be. And obviously the mask is iconic, just the way they move around. It's a very realistic villain. Of course, there's no supernatural elements to it. It's just straight up a guy with a knife or a girl going around killing people. So I feel like I gotta put Ghostface in S, although it's hard to do that just because there has been a few Ghostfaces that I didn't think was that great. But I love the Scream movies. I'm gonna put him in S. I'm actually probably gonna I'm gonna leave him there. I'm not gonna put him above John Doe or Hannibal Lecter, but that's a good spot. Next up, we have the Fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I love that movie. I do a lot, but I don't think The Fisherman's that interesting or compelling. I'm just going to drop him in C, unfortunately, but the movie's great. The movie's great. It's just, I think it's great for a lot of other elements. I think the characters are great. I think the tension's great, but I don't really think the character of The Fisherman's that interesting. So I'm just going to put him in C. Next up, we have The Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. I've only seen the first 2 Jeepers Creepers movies. I know there's a third, and then there's another one that just came out recently, and I've heard terrible things about both of those, so I haven't even bothered to check them out. I probably will one day, but I don't think The Creeper, I think those movies were really fun. I think the concept of them is really cool, but this is more of like a creature to me. It's less of a character. I didn't really find the character to be that interesting, so just for the fact that that's the case. Like I said, I'm not ranking the movies here. I'm just ranking the character themselves. So I think putting The Creeper in C makes the most sense to me. Next up, we have Tiffany from the Child's Play franchise. And Tiffany is so hard to rank because I think she was phenomenal in Bride of Chucky.
What would Martha Stewart say?
Fuck Martha Stewart! Martha Stewart can kiss my shiny plastic butt!
And even though Seed of Chucky's not a good movie, I think she was amazing in Seed of Chucky as well. But then you go beyond that. I know she was barely in some of those. She was barely in Cult of Chucky, and she was in a lot of the Child's Play or the Chucky series as Jennifer Tilly, but not as the Tiffany doll herself. Still the same character though. So if we're just talking about Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, she would probably be an S. But I have to include all the versions. I don't really think she's been that great beyond Seed of Chucky. So for that, I'm gonna drop her down to A, but I still really like her character just for how she was in Bride and Seed. I love how the doll looks. So I'm gonna throw it right there. A looks like a good place for her, I think. That's solid. Next up, we have Glenn/Glenda. And honestly, how they were in Seed was not that great, but in terms of what they did with them in the series, which they only did something with them in season 2 so far, not anything beyond that, I don't think. Yeah, nothing in season 1 or 3. So I'd probably just throw... It's really hard because, I don't know, they haven't done anything too interesting. I think their whole character is just centered around being the child of Jennifer and, well, not Jennifer, Tiffany and Chucky. And yeah, I don't think there's much beyond that. I'm going to have to put them in C. I'm going to have to do it. I'm sorry. I love the Child's Play franchise, but it's hard for me to put Glenn Glenda much higher than that. Sorry. Jigsaw. Now, if we're talking about John Kramer, probably like A, but then of course you have other versions of Jigsaw later on. I'm not going to spoil all those different versions, but they exist. And especially what they did with John Kramer in Saw X, I really want to put him up high. And I know I'm using the Billy the Puppet image here, obviously, but that's just like the iconic, image for Jigsaw. That's why I'm using it. I'm just gonna put Jigsaw in B though, because there has been some really rough versions of Jigsaw that I don't think have been that great, but John Kramer definitely holds it up and is definitely keeping it, in a decent spot. So we're gonna leave that there. That looks good. Next up, we have Esther from Orphan, and I loved the Orphan movies, man. We did both reactions for both films on this channel, and I was so in love with that movie, man. It was so good, especially the first one. But the character herself, how high should she go? Dude, Jason and Michael fans are gonna be pissed about this, but I'm doing it. She's going in S, bro. She's going in S. That might seem like some crazy shit to some people, but I love the psychological, just those movies were just so great. I love this character. I think she's so interesting. She goes in S. Deal with it. I really want them to do more Orphan films in the future because, like I said, they're great. But especially, I don't know the actress's name, but her performance in both those movies is just outstanding. She's got to be there. Next up, we have this dude, this red-faced guy from Insidious. I don't know why I decided to throw him in, but I'm sorry, I'm just going to put him in D. Other than having a really cool jump scare in Insidious, I don't really think the character's that interesting. Keep in mind, I've only seen the first Insidious. I don't know if this character appears in the other ones. He probably does. I have only seen the first one. And from the first one, I think the movie was okay. But I'm just going to put him in D. I don't think he's that great. Sorry, I hate to say it. Don't think he's that great. Next up, we have the Pumpkin Kid. Or what's the actual name of this kid from Trick or Treat? Really cool design to him. I really absolutely love the look of this kid. And I did like that movie, but I don't really think the character's that interesting, so gonna have to throw him down in C tier. It really hurts to put characters kind of low because I don't think they're that bad, but C tier, like I said, is average. You know, it's just like, they're just okay. There's nothing too crazy about them. Next up, we have The Collector. And this is one of the ones that I was saying before is more of a niche film that I don't think many people have seen. But if you're a big fan of horror, I highly recommend you check The Collector out because it is so good. Both of them, there's two of them. There's The Collector and The Collection. And this character is so freaking menacing. I don't think the character is that interesting in and of himself, but just the idea of what he does in those movies, the traps he sets up, is just so cool. And to the point where I have to put this guy in at least B tier. I'm not going to put him too high because I don't think he's that interesting. But I'm looking at it. I got to raise Jack Torrance a little bit. He's too low. Putting him here. But Jack Torrance, I'm going to put him at the high of B. He's going to go at the top. He deserves to be higher than that. I think I'm giving him not enough credit. But that's fine. Next up, I have Joseph from Creep. I literally just watched this movie like a couple weeks ago. And the character's just so funny and ridiculous. I have to put him in C just because of that, or B. He's gonna be the bottom of B, but he's so just like funny and creepy, but in a way where it's so unique, and I just have to put him in B for that. I highly recommend watching Creep if you haven't. It's a funny movie, but yeah. All right, next up we have The Nun from the Conjuring universe. I haven't seen all the Conjuring movies, like I said. I've only seen the first two, and then I've seen the two Nun movies. I would love to see the other ones like Annabelle and all those other ones, but just haven't gotten around to them yet. But The Nun, I'm going to throw her in D. She's not that interesting. She's not that compelling. She doesn't really have much to her that really... I didn't like the Nun movies either. Like, I just didn't. Like, I gave both of them below a 2 out of 5. So, it's hard to really like a character that much from a movie with that sort of a character. So, I'm sorry. It has to happen. That's just how it is. Next up, we have Art the Clown from Terrifier. And to be completely honest, if I only saw the first Terrifier, he would probably be in like C or D. But because of Terrifier 2, because of how bonkers that movie is, and how menacing and just creepy and cool this character can be, I'm putting him in A. I don't care what nobody says. He's going in A. Is he going above Michael Myers and Jason? You know what? Fuck it. He's going above Michael Myers and Jason. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it. I cannot wait for Terrifier 3 that comes out probably in the next 2 years. I believe it's going to be a Christmas movie. That's what the director said recently. But Art the Clown, he has solidified himself as a horror icon, and he deserves that A tier. Maybe he'll get up to S tier after Terrifier 3. I don't know. I also threw in The Boy here. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie. It's with Lauren Cohen. I think there was a sequel. I never saw the sequel. I'm throwing him down in D tier because he's not interesting at all, but I wanted to include him. I got to include some cannon fodder. I had to have some. So let's just throw him in D. We have the guy from Don't Breathe. I don't remember his name, but I think he was cool. It was really unique having a character, who's obviously blind, and he was just absolute badass, just taking everybody out. And the concept of the movie was really unique. I'm not going to put him too high, though, just because the character himself wasn't the greatest thing ever. I think the movie was amazing, but the character doesn't really wow me too much other than that. I know there was a sequel. Haven't seen it yet, but just based on that, I'm throwing him there. All right, next up, I have Pennywise from the It remake. Now, I think this one is a lot better, personally. That's just my opinion. Also, I think the movie's just better in general, so obviously the character is probably going to be more interesting if the movie presents the character in a more interesting way. But where am I going to put him? I'm going to say not S tier, but probably below... I'll put him below Buffalo Bill. That looks good. That's fine. Next up we have... Oh, God. Oh, no, not the next one. Next up we have Slender Man from the Slender Man movie. One of the worst horror movies I've ever seen. Yeah, that character was not interesting. I'll put above these at least, but yeah, that's going straight in D tier. That has to go in D tier. There's no way that's going any higher than that. I like the creepypasta story of Slender Man, but the movie's horrible. So we're ranking the horror icons from movies and shows that some of these are in, but it's not, like creepypasta lore or anything like that. So it's just the character presented in the movie. Terrible. Leaving it at that. Now we get Chucky from the remake. I know a lot of people shit on this character. A lot of people shit on that movie. I don't really see the problem. It's going for something so different, and that's why I think it works as a remake, because It's not trying to do the exact same thing again with Chucky. It is a totally different character, a totally different story, just using the same sort of concept, general idea. I'm going to throw him in below Tiffany for sure, but I'm going to put him in B, probably like below Pinhead maybe, or below Candyman. But no, below Pennywise. No, below the Collector. Actually, no, below Carrie. I just keep dropping. But I think he's underrated. I think the movie's definitely underrated too. But he's obviously not going to be better than the OG Chucky. No shit. But he deserves to still be up there, you know? And then these are all going to be from like the 2020s. We're getting to the more recent horror icons, which there are some recent horror icons that are up and coming. We have the Invisible Man from the Invisible Man movie from 2002. I decided to include him because I really like that movie a lot. But the Invisible Man character is not that interesting. But again, just because I rate the character lower does not mean I don't like the movie. I would put the movie is one of my favorite of all time. But the character, yeah, lower B. Low B is fine. But I love the concept of it. Obviously, it's an invisible man. And some of the things they do with it is just so fucking cool. Love it, love it, love it. Next up, we have one of my favorite recent horror icons. One that I think should have more films in the future. One of my favorite horror movies of all time, Gabriel from Malignant. This is going straight in S tier. I don't care what nobody says. I'm not gonna go that high in S though. Don't be thinking I'm gonna put it above like Chucky or anything like that. But Gabriel deserves to go this high. I absolutely love the concept of Malignant. I love the movie itself, but even just the character itself and the reveal of Gabriel and what it all is, what it means. It is so unique, and just the way James Wan shoots that movie is so amazing. I know, like I said, I'm not rating the movies here. I'm rating the characters. But yes, the character, I think, deserves S tier. Call me nuts for that. Call me insane. Call me crazy, whatever you want. But I think everyone needs to give that movie a shot. It is a cheesy, crazy film, but it deserves all the love it gets because I love it. I love it. I want to see more of Gabriel. I want to see more of it. It's really cool. Next up, we have Pearl from, of course, X and Pearl. And I believe, well, no, Maxine's not going to have Pearl in it, obviously. It's just going to be Maxine. But Pearl, pretty cool. I think Mia Goth does a great job with the role. I think she's solid. I think she's definitely solidified herself as a, newer 2020s horror icon. But is she worthy of like a really high rating? I'm gonna say B. I keep seeing Jack here. I'm gonna put him in A. I'm sorry, I gotta put him in A. I keep looking at Jack. I'm like, he's too low. I think I gave him too much shit. He's definitely at least an A. We'll put him there. Pearl though, top of B sounds good to me. I think I really liked Pearl. I thought it was a good movie. I thought X was not as good, but still pretty good. But I think Pearl, the psychological study on this character was really interesting, and yeah, she deserves B for that. I think at the very least, I think that's solid. Next up, we have the Pinhead version from the 2022 remake, which I did like that movie, but compared to the Pinhead from the original, I don't think this version was nearly as good. So I'm just gonna put her in probably C. I like below the Fisherman maybe, but I don't know, maybe even below Glenn Glenda. Actually, even below that the kid probably, but she was fine. She was ultimately okay. Nothing too crazy. And we only got 3 left here. These are all villains or horror icons from 2023 now. We have Megan, who has, of course, solidified herself as a new icon as well. And I didn't think the movie was that great. I liked it. I didn't think it was that great, though. She's obviously not anywhere near the level of Chucky. And maybe in the future movies, maybe she can be. I don't know. I think if it was R-rated, I think you would have more interesting kills with the character, which might make the character more interesting. But we don't really learn much about her other than obviously she's just an AI that's just out of control. I don't know. It's hard to put her anywhere too high. I'm just going to put her probably in C. I'll put her above Glenn Glenda, though. That's fine. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yes, I watched this movie. And yes, Winnie the Pooh is in it as a horror icon. I'm putting him right at the bottom of D. Right at the bottom of D. And then lastly, Five Nights at Freddy's movie just came out recently. We have the Yellow Rabbit. I did not include all these separate animatronics because they were like kids who were under control. So I made sense to include just the Yellow Rabbit as the main one. And I'm not going to reveal like the identity and everything like that. If you haven't seen the movie, there's no spoilers here. But I thought this character was mildly interesting. Nothing too crazy. I'm sure if you go into the deep lore of the movies, or not the movies, the games, I'm sure it's a more interesting character. But just from the movie itself, gonna probably put it just in C tier, probably at the bottom actually. I don't know. He wasn't that interesting from the get-go. But like I said, maybe in the lore he's more interesting. I don't know. But yeah, that is gonna do it for this horror tier list of these horror icons. Let's just kind of scroll through it, starting with the D tier. Obviously, those are just the bottom of the barrel ones that I do not care about whatsoever. C tier is average. Some of them I care, some of them I don't. But they're like kind of like, yeah, they're okay. They're fine. B tiers, the good ones, they're good. They're solid. I don't really think they're amazing, but they're solid. A is where we get to the really amazing ones that I really, really love. And then S is just the masterpieces that I think are some of the best characters in horror. So yes, that is my tier list. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. What characters that I didn't include do you think should have been included? But like I said, keep in mind that I didn't include everyone because simply I haven't seen every horror movie, and also there were some ones I just didn't really want to include or didn't really care to include. For example, if you were wondering where Xenomorph, Predator, and Terminator are, I don't really consider those horror movies. I know a lot of people do, but they're more like sci-fi action movies for me personally. I'm sure you can consider Alien a horror movie, but in general, I didn't want to include them on this list. But if I were to, they would probably be all kind of high. And for the most part, Alien and Predator are more so. I don't know. I guess I could have included them, but I just didn't feel like it. So deal with it. Whatever. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Peace out.